what we want to talk about is the actual benefits of using social media for customer support. Now, until now, everything you read, especially if you read stuff from the industry, you'll get a pretty exciting view that social media is going to very much change your entire business concept, but also help you sell a lot more of stuff that you're already selling because you're doing really well socially. Well, when you start to look at analytics and you start to look at more of defined research from scholars, you actually start to get a completely different picture, right? Because the amount of traffic that is actually driven by social media in general is not that high. And most importantly, the conversion rate of the traffic that comes from social media in general is not that high, depending on the business that you're running, right? And you can do that bit of a test yourself, and that's quite simple. You can just set yourself up with a blog, right? And then set up a social media channel for that specific blog that you want to build, right? And then what you can then do, start to build up profiles on social media, engage with users on social media, and always provide the link to that blog on almost everything you say, but also in the profiles of those specific channels. After a while, you start to see that the amount of traffic coming to your website from social media, and especially the conversion, which means that someone has subscribed to your blog because they came from social media, is actually not that high. In fact, at times it can be disappointing, right? But social media is a lot more than just bringing traffic and converting people, right? Because in reality, email is still a powerful conversion channel, right? So a pretty good amount of people that click on the email you send them actually end up converting and end up buying something from you. Pretty good amount of people that see your ad on Google advertising platform, they will end up buying something from you. But it's not always the case with social media, right? So that's why it's really important when you study social to expand your studies further. Because it's just not around trying to gain more customers, but it's around building up a platform where you're going to do what? You're going to communicate, show that you're there to help them out, and ultimately provide a better customer support, right? Because it's a new medium that huge amount of users are using it, and therefore as a business we need to do everything we can to provide support. In other words, with a business you've got to go where the trends are, right? You can't ignore Facebook just because you don't believe in social media if you've got more than 80% of your customers hanging around Facebook. You can ignore, but you'll be on the wrong side of history, because by the time you start activating your Facebook fan page, then most of your customers will have probably changed and moved on with your competitors. So in other words, when you look at social media, even when you study social media as a topic, try and expand it further than just the return on investment, right? Because in reality, the ROI of social media is almost non-existent, or is very little, right? But the social media is more than that. It's about building brand awareness. We talked about this last time. In addition to that, it's about showing the customers that you're there to help, and also using this as a channel to educate them and help them as much as possible. That's when customer support comes in, which is to say to your customers, right, I sold you something that is not that's not what I'm trying to aim to. I'm trying to aim to get you to become a lifetime customer, and therefore I'm providing a good customer support. So I'm not looking at short-term transaction, I'm looking at the long-term. And as soon as you've got a very decent strategy for the customer support, you are sending a very strong message to companies which says something like this: I'm very happy you believe in what we sell, and that's what, as a result of that, we are happy to tell you that we want you to be a lifetime customer. So we want to go extra mile to provide the best customer support we can, and because we know you're in social, we will be there too. So that's why it's something that can really help us build a stronger brand for the future. So, again, social channels are not there just for marketing purposes. Keep that in mind. Because when you start to research and understand and analyze what brands do in general, you get a real picture that what the brands are looking for in general, most of them, again, is trying to sell more stuff using social media channels. Now, that's nothing wrong with it, right? But actually there's more to it than just selling. And in this case today we're talking about customer support. So, how do we do well with the customer support? Well, most importantly, we need to make sure that we have got a very good consistency of our presence, brand presence across different social media channels. Which means that when someone is in your Twitter profile and then switches from your Twitter profile to your LinkedIn company website, they actually know where they are. They don't get confused. When they switch from Facebook fan page to your Twitter profile or to your Pinterest or to your Instagram profile, they know it's your company. You don't want to confuse them. Because ultimately you want to use these channels for customer support. And if you're not going to make it very clear to all the customers that whether they're on Facebook, on Twitter, or Facebook, or YouTube, or wherever they are in your brand, in your world, right? And we'll look at some examples in a minute. The next thing is to set up employee presence. So, to be able to provide a fantastic customer support, if you leave that to one single individual, to one single employee, it's deemed to fail, right? Because there's always a limit to how much one individual can do, whether you run a small company or a large one, right? Because there will be always a huge amount of customers who want information, who got questions and all sorts of queries about things that they want to know, right? And that individual has got other things to do. He doesn't just do customer support. He's probably a marketing executive, right? And doing a bit of marketing, a bit of research, a bit of customer support, a bit of this, a bit of that. And by the end of the month, he's given up and he's leaving, right? So, to be able to do well with customer support, you've got to make sure that you've got a complete team of people that are advocates of social media, that actually believe that you can use these channels to support customers. In other words, you've got to train more people to deliver this, right? Now, when you look at largest UK brands, they've got teams of people that do social media. But those that do exceptionally well, they've got people who do social across different departments, right? From finance, payments, HR, delivery, shipping, stock, everything else. They've got support from every single department. And that says quite a lot, because something that a guy that looks after shipping knows is probably not something that the HR guy knows, because HR looks at something totally different. So being able to have every single individual presenting every single department for customer support is really important. But what brands do quite a lot, and you've noticed this yourselves, is that when you tweet them out something, right, they'll say, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That means they're going back and checking who's in charge of this specific sort of department, and then whether they can deal with that inquiry or not, right? And then it will be social media people who hand over that sort of query to the department teams. Or sometimes is a social media team is the front face of absolutely everything. The next one, of course, to be able to have a really good team that looks after social media, using customer support on social media, is that they need to be trained well, right? And those of you who've either done placement or already working for some companies, you will know that there are a huge amount of people in companies that believe in social, but actually have got very little training as to how to get started. So the training is going to be an essential element. Next one is monitor your presence. So now that you've done all of those things above, what you need to do, you need to monitor how well you're doing online. Okay? And what are those processes that you're going through to provide a better customer support? In addition to that, you will then need to identify activities that require most engagement for your team. And in addition to that, you'll start to identify what are some of the financial benefits. Again, without limiting yourself to just finances, because when it comes to social, you should look at the other parts of the business, such as building brand awareness or building long-term customer value. And again, most importantly, you've got to get a really good understanding that as soon as you've got a broader view of social, you really can deliver and also build up a strategy around social media. So when we look at what we called earlier about brand consistency, and we take, for instance, Coldplay is a very well-known music band across the world. However, you know that whether you're in their Twitter profile or YouTube channel or whatever they are, you will get a really good idea that that's Coldplay and that's official, their brand is very consistent throughout different channels. So what are the three things that help the brands build consistency? The first one is the logo. It's identical in every way possible. There's a tagline of the brand. Okay, and you know that tagline represents their brand. And then ultimately there is a site link. So there is a link that points those people to unique and specific website. And in general, that website can be a blog, that website can be a YouTube channel, or that website can be an e-commerce store. So building employee social presence. You cannot expect people to support customers using social media if they don't actually have a presence on social media themselves. They might believe it, they might see the benefit, they might even want to support, but if they do not have profiles themselves in social media, they won't be able to do it. So, what a company, quite a well-known company in the US, Zappos, did, is that actually provided what they call Twitter Fold, where they provided a clear list of products that they are offering on their Twitter profiles, but also on the Twitter feed, which are embedded into a specific website, and they're calling it Tweetwall, right? What they're then doing it, they are allowing employees to engage with customers themselves, provide details and information about the products, and ultimately guide them to their purchase process. And what this sort of website does is actually does some quite deep things. It provides the names of people engaging with on behalf of the company. It provides links to the products, so when people can click, they can get to the products and buy them. And then it can create the link to Twitter users as well. Other Twitter users within the company that can support everything that Zappos in this case is doing. So in other words, these guys are investing to not just take on questions that users have got across social media channels, but ultimately to try and hopefully convert some of those conversations into purchases. And we talked about importance of employee trainings. Now, ourselves, we do conferences and other bits and pieces where we tend to publish our work and our research, or sometimes consultancy sort of related activities. But these are some of the things to keep in mind. Group staff, based on how active they are online, you need to train them based on how well they do online and how engaged they are online, which is quite important. The next one is that we need to decide what can and cannot be talked about online. So we set down some clear guidelines, and I'm not saying rules and sort of like processes and procedures and so on, but more like guidelines. Simulated customer support process. Now this is really important. Lots and lots of brands fail to deliver a customer support using social media, simply because they have never ever simulated a customer support using social media, right? Which is what exactly after they build up their profiles on social media they need to do. They need to simulate as to what will happen someone writes to you, whether it's positive or negative or whatever it is, how do you deal with it? How long will it take for you to get back to them? Right? What would you say? Who would you direct this inquiry to? How long will it take? Do you need to get approval from your line managers? And if so, how long will that take? So all of these things are very important part that you need to consider when you start to decide to provide customer support on social media. The next one, then you start to introduce social monitoring tools. These are really important as well. Why? Because you cannot pick up every conversation in every channel possible across the web unless you've got a very good system put in place. And that system can be a monitoring tool. That all it does, it monitors everything that has been said online, at least most of the things that are being said online. And as soon as it picks up something that it can be related to your brand, it sends you a notification and pop-up alert saying there is something that is being talked about. It could be that someone is talking about your brand. And it might not be about your brand, but still it's an opportunity for you to engage. And that's why social media monitoring tools are really important. Almost every single brand out there that does a very, very engaging social media activities, they tend to implement social media monitoring tools. Now, the next one is to try and decide what matters to be reported back to either your line managers or to your team on social media. What are some of the key metrics? And we talked about metrics last time. We normally measure what matters. Now, not everything to our business matters, so we need to pick up those things that matter the most. And then we start reporting back things that matter the most so that the company knows what they're getting back in return for investing in social media. So then when the next time you're going to ask for some more money to either hire someone or do a bit of promotion on social media, they'll say, yeah, we've seen, we've noticed the benefits of us providing customer support or engaging with users on social media, and therefore, tick, we will approve this. So, these are some of the questions to ask. How will your business engage with complaints, right? What would you say? Would you take things offline? Would you try to have that argument on social media? That can be a never-ending thing, right? Will there be a protocol regarding off-topic sort of content and messages? What would you do? How would you deal with it? And then what targets will you be setting for response time? Now social media more and more is becoming a live support thing. And if you tweet something out, which we'll try something in a minute, it's going to be really important to get a clear idea as to how long you'll get the response back. And because we almost live and breathe social nowadays, we almost expect instant support from brands. And if they don't do that, they start to lose the interest. Right? And also we start to lose the interest to engage with them at the same time, so it becomes a more engaging, more attractive company to be dealing with. Because as soon as someone takes so long to get back to you, that message to your head is almost something like, well, maybe you don't want my business. And that's why you couldn't care much about what I said on your Twitter account, right? Or on your Facebook. So it starts to trigger some very negative messages in your head. And before you realize, you might be just switching to another brand that it's cheaper, provides free delivery, and actually provides outstanding social media support. Right? How long will you aim to reach a complaint resolution? Right? If you had an issue, how long will it take? What would you do? Who would you talk to? Right? What would you provide to customers to resolve that situation? It cannot go forever, because if it goes for a long time, it can be a PR disaster for your brand. And we looked at several examples like the United Brake Guitars and all sorts of other things, right? Which we have noticed how long those guys went through the whole process of trying to get United Airlines to, help them with a guitar that they've broken. but nobody really paid any attention, right? Not even managers. And so these guys went and created their viral YouTube video that went all over the place. Now, again, it's something to really be having quite clear within your team as to how long it's going to take to have a complete resolution in place. Will the team be responding to direct messages and general negativity? Social media is going to be all over the place. You're not going to be finding just nice and, exciting messages to read. There will be all sorts of messages that are going to be negative and that can put your team off, right? You can actually put you yourself as the owner of the company off, because you start to see that you can be disappointed that your brand is just not good enough. So how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to lead teams, or are you going to let them on their own decide what to say? Now, before we move into the next slide, I'd like to ask you to bring out your phones and let's tweet out your favorite brand with a question or a comment you have of their product or service. So it's only got to do with the product or service, not necessarily around the company. So I want you to tweet out your favorite brand of yours, what's the brand you use the most, whether it's around a product or service, and it might be something positive, it might be something negative, it might be something that they haven't replied back to you, okay? But don't say anything negative because I'm asking you to tweet out, right? But I'd like you to tweet a genuine sort of question or comment. And then keep your phones on your desk, and then if you receive any reply back by the end of the session, tell me what it is, right? Because we want to get a clear idea as to how long some of these brands take them to get back to you. Yeah?
I tweeted last night.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for a company called Liz L.
Liz
L.
Okay.
It's a beauty product.
Beauty product.
So I was working for them, and I done a makeup on a customer. So I tweeted out yesterday, but I didn't add Liz L, I just hashtagged them. And
Yes.
I just got a response from them.
You haven't got the response?
I just got the response.
You just got the response.
Yeah.
So you've tweeted them, what, late last night, or
I
was it?
tweeted them at 2:48, and they replied back just now 11:20.
Okay. So what their reply, is it that relevant to what you asked, or is it just general one?
So I tweeted my first makeover on a client today using Liz L products, and they replied saying, "How long, Trisha, were you and your client pleased with the results?"
Okay. Because sometimes what brands do, by using social media monitoring tools, they've got automatic responses. So as soon as you send them a tweet using their Twitter handle, you get almost like an automatic response. It's not really a human typing it, it's just an engine doing it, right? And they'll say, "Thank you for your tweet, we'll get back to you as soon as possible," right? That means that just the software is sending you an automatic thing, right? And then that inquiry is listed with a list of task inquiries for the customer, for the team to deal with it behind the scene. So have you all tweeted something out?
And they just replied.
Wow.
I just tweeted ASOS. It's like, how long does free shipping normally take? And it's like, where would you like from your goodies delivered to? Is that like an automatic?
No, I think that's probably a genuine one. That's probably a genuine one. I think, there might be specific questions, because some of the very, very expensive social media monitoring tools, they'll give you all sorts of features, right? To even tailor specific reply messages that are automatic, depending on what people say. But in general, you would have companies sort of like getting back or writing to you unless there is something that is not relevant to them. So have you all tweeted something out? Okay, so what you'll notice in a bit as you receive replies from some of the questions you've sent out now, you notice that the way how brands in general get back to you is by using monitoring tools on social media. Again, these monitoring tools are the most used software when it comes to social media, not just to deliver campaigns, right, and offers, but also provide a customer support. So, in general, Twitter is very popular with that, but nowadays, customers across different channels are asking questions. Whether Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, in general for business purposes, YouTube and so on, they're actually using specific questions. Now, if we look at an example, for instance, Zendesk, one of the customer support leaders in the marketplace, what they do is that they provided an application and a facility so that you can implement and use Zendesk as a platform to provide customer support using Twitter. So in other words, for some brands, managing customer support via Twitter becomes such a huge task that unless you've got a process put in place that sort of like picks up all those inquiries and creates tickets against those inquiries for teams of people to deal with, you start to lose track about where you are. So these guys said, okay, what we'll do, we'll build up a process put in place, a system that enables you to incorporate everything you get via Twitter, turn those into tickets, right? Or tasks for the teams to be dealing with. Which means that absolutely nothing is sent out, right? And is lost. Because you'll notice now, some of the tweets you've just sent out, actually you'll never hear back from the brand. Sometimes it might be because you forgot to use the specific or correct Twitter handle of the brand. So the brand doesn't pick up, right? Or sometimes you forgot to use the brand altogether. Or sometimes you just said something, but doesn't actually have any link or anything like that. So it's really hard for the brands to pick up. Now, where do businesses fail in general? Well, according to some research, from the top 50 brands, 56% did not respond to a single customer comment on their Facebook fan page in 2011. Right? So that was 4 years ago. But where we are now, according to the research, you start to see that that has improved to around 63-64%. But they're actually not as great as we would like it to be, specifically because when you've got a huge amount of users, especially target audience like those of ASOS, I mean, they are going to be all over the place and they will really want an instant support. Otherwise, if they don't get that, they probably won't be shopping with you. They might, but you never know. Chances are high that they won't be doing that. Brands ignore 70% of customers' complaints on Twitter. Right? And in general, that has improved as well. According to research, around 60% now in last year. But still quite a huge amount of brands that build up profiles but don't see any value in replying back to customers. So that's almost like saying, I'm happy to get into the relationship with you, but I'm actually not interested to care about you that much. Right? I'm happy to sign this piece of paper that says, we're married now, but, you know, I'll still be living my own life. And it doesn't work that way. You've got to actually commit to the day-to-day life of living together and caring after each other, right? And it's the same with customer support, right? So with the customer support, as I said earlier, you send a strong message where you say, now that we started this relationship with you, right? We're committed to supporting you and to caring about your experience with the brand, your experience with the product, and your experience with the service. So in other words, if for some reason you're struggling with the use of the product, you don't know what to do with it, you don't see any benefits, or you've got issues with the quality on the product that you're using, we'll be there to support you. So that as a customer, you feel very committed, but also reassuring to be doing business with a company like that. And of course, 55% of customers expect a response on the same day. Now, according to research, around just about 35 to 40% of users do expect an instant support. But in general, actually, we start to see that changing a bit more now, because this is done across different social media channels. But in general, when it comes to Twitter, really we do expect live instant support, because we are there pretty much all the time. And once we do that, we start to get a better idea as to where we are with the support in general. But when we start to see how many of those people do actually receive replies back from the brands, is not that high. When you start to look now into your own content that you published earlier, you'll see quite shortly as to how long, but also what will those brands say in response to your inquiry. So the biggest problem is that unfortunately there's a disconnect between what customers want and companies' emphasis is actually growing, right? So we really don't know, and we can't see the idea as to what customers want, right? And also how we can help them out through the content and educational, specifically educational type of content as well. Many companies just don't get that they're in business to serve people. Huge amount of companies think that they're there to sell you something. But as soon as they sold you something, that's it. This is the end of the story, right? But in general, those companies that are looking at building lifetime valuable customer, they know that customer support is as important as closing the sale. Hopefully you never know. So, what to do? The first and foremost, we need to integrate sort of social media into existing customer service function. So we need to have social media as a part of any customer support, right? Create a humanized response. Remember we talked about this earlier. To engage with loyalty and build up brand relationship. Monitor all social interactions to ensure that those problems are not picked up before they go viral or before they become a real crisis. Take sensitive issues offline. This is something that really has been successful for many brands. Whether that's taking those sensitive issues over the phone or email or meeting was a lot better. Make the most of customer posts. Speeding up response time. Again, it's something that constantly brand needs to work on them. And also make it clear that it's on your website, social media channels and email signatures, how quickly you will reply. Again, think about a lifetime customer. Companies don't realize that by creating Twitter address or Facebook page to monitor and promote the business, they're also opening up a new channel for customer feedback, right? So when companies build up these profiles on social media, they all think about sales, but they don't think about the fact that these needs to be as a social media customer support channels. Social networks in general will help companies to connect to a more personal level with customers. So again, that's another thing that is somehow ignored by companies. Ways to do it well, I mean, there are several case studies. We don't have to get into all of those individually. You can look at them at your own time. But get everyone on board. Rebooking tool for Facebook using live replies. That was when the xCloud happened in back in 2010. And very much, obviously, these applies to and outside the UK were cancelled. And so it was really, really hard to get people to come back at home. And at that time, I was in Abu Dhabi, so I really had no issues in staying there for a bit more time. But of course, there was work that needed to be done, so I had to come back. But of course, the KLM did something quite extraordinary, because they went into their Facebook profile page and they built up this tool that allowed people to rebook while taking on all the customers and their questions, inquiries they had. And that was just clearly to show to them that someone was listening. Now that's you know, those rebooking flights and so on, all of them were not able to rebook those flights at the same time they wanted, obviously. but just the idea that they were able to talk to a company made a big difference. Go through experience to really get it, Zappos, Twitter wall that we talked about earlier. Get executives to buy through social media, stories and data. Actually, I haven't met a CEO yet that wants to create bad customer experience. Everyone wants to do very, very good customer experience. And justify your existence using a return on investment, ROI, but again, ROI cannot be and should not be looked into isolation. There is more to it. There is customer support. Again, using a customer support on social media can actually reduce the cost for the call centers that are generally very, very expensive, and actually reduce the amount of emails you get. Leverage employees' personal passion, so all 180,000 employees at Best Buy are in 12 Force as well. Be prepared, but don't freak out. That's something that companies do freak out quite quickly. And again, don't promise what you can deliver. Integrate social media across different departments within the business, because again, inquiries and customer support will come and they will be targeted to specific departments in the company, and we need to be able to support them. And then last but not least is the trained employees as well. So we need to have a time plan and the resources to support these activities on social media. So that is just a template that one can use to deliver content, but ultimately identify people and resources that can be responsible for engaging with that specific content out there in social media. And that goes by day and also across the week in specific channels, and at the same time, specific time of the day when the content is being published and who is responsible for that. And ultimately, the good thing about it is that for every week you can actually have a specific theme that you want to use for your own brand. Top brands on social media. These are a long list of brands, but of course it will be quite a good idea to actually dig deep into their social media activities and customer support on social media and see how they deal with it and what do they do.